Hopefully, you guys were able to see the update yesterday. We were mainly just talking about what we were looking at last week and how to really understand things. I think last week's moves were very good to help you understand how to look at them and what kind of reversal signals to look for around those type of moves that we discussed, which are weekly expected moves and daily expected moves, which we do have new ones for you today. So thank you so much for clicking on this video. I hope you guys have a great Sunday with your family with a little bit of stock information that could maybe help you out for the week ahead. We do have those levels here on the chart, and we are going to prepare for that as the thing that we were expecting to raise the floor did happen. We do also need to talk about this little orange dotted line, and we'll talk about that in a moment because that is where things could get pretty spicy. Let's get into it. So if you want to talk about anything to do with last week and how we did call out that there would be a Friday trap, and this was the opportunity to pull back to actually head higher, we called that out a week ago, and that actually proved to happen here. If you want that information, just click on the previous video, the video that was posted on August 23rd, aka yesterday on Saturday. So we do notice that the daily scale able to see a big booming roar here. The 2-hour pullback that we were paying attention to did head to the upside. So let's give you those levels for this SPY. And we'll kind of go over the SPY before we get into the Qs. First of all, your monthly upside move, 655.88. Does it look like it is possible that we could get there this week? I would say so. And we do see the weekly expected move up here of 653.87 to the upside. Weekly expected moves will always be in purple. The downside move is 636.75. The daily expected moves for Monday, which we will be giving out daily expected moves throughout the week. And if I'm not ever able to make a video on YouTube, I do put out the daily expected moves on Patreon, so you always have that information. 647.48 to the upside for Monday and 643.14 to the downside for Monday. This is tiny. This is so tiny that when it is this small, the higher percentage chances you're going to see a dud kind of day. You're going to see a very sluggish kind of day where, the most probable thing for this market is most likely to get like a 30-minute pullback, but it hasn't crossed down yet. And we're still creating shelves and things like that. So really going into Monday, the continuation for squeezing or some kind of, dry day in here to just kind of mellow out and get this 30-minute by the center line to curl up would be the more likely thing to happen. If you wanted to go based on price action and just based on how these things like to move, you can really see great buyers right in here where that 5-day moving average is. You see those right in here. Those are some great buyers. There's also great buyers right here at the gap. So this would be a good area to pay attention to, and the lower weekly expected move would be a good area to pay attention to for pullbacks to actually head higher. There is nothing here that is necessarily bearish at this point. We have gotten rid of a lot of the bearishness by showing us exactly what we were looking for, which was a higher low or divergence at the weekly expected move last week. The 2-hour chart, the risky thing, all right? We talked, that's kind of the bullish things. The bullish things are we're going to continue to squeeze, or we're going to see little 30-minute pullback and then continue to squeeze up into this orange line that we're going to talk about in a brief moment. We will be running into problems if this is some kind of flush here that looks a little bit worse and you're not able to curl things up, but instead crack down and make new lows. If you're able to make new lows here and you get a reaction up, that could be a dead cat bounce to head lower. These are all things to be aware of. The bearish side right now are things to be aware of. If the 2-hour crosses down, the market is risky, right? But the structure of the market right now is set up for continuation to the upside. So you need to be aware that the more probable thing here is you're just either going to keep squeezing and then you're going to see a 30-minute pullback at some point to head higher. Let's just discuss what this orange line is right here. So this is marked off for Thursday morning at 8:30. We will be getting NVDA earnings Wednesday night, I believe. So we will see that reaction by morning on Thursday. So I wanted you to be aware of that and be looking out for what the SPY or the Qs is telling you as far as the week goes before that happens. Are we at extremely elevated levels? Are we at those extremely elevated levels with a 30-minute divergence right here? Are we at extremely low levels? Are we at extremely low levels with a reversal signal here? Those are going to be some key moments to pay attention. If I was looking for a time where a trade would set up and we could see a big reaction, I would be paying attention to Thursday, August 28th at 8:30 a.m. And I'd be paying attention to signals on Wednesday before the close to see what shapes up. Now, Qs we do have to talk about a little bit differently. So let's get you guys the weekly and daily expected moves. Okay, weekly expected moves for this week, your 68% zone with a 32% chance to close outside of those levels by Friday is going to be 583.27 to the upside. We do see 560.67 to the downside. The big difference here for the Qs on the 2-hour chart before we get into the dailies on the 30-minute is this is more negative than the SPY, which means you do heavily want to be aware of lower highs. Okay, so we will be watching for any kind of lower high this week from the Qs, and you'll notice that exactly on like this wick is where the weekly expected move is. So this can go positive, but if that rolls down near the center line, where is it going? It's going negative. It's very likely to make a new low. So we don't necessarily want to see that. But I just wanted to point that out. That is a big difference between the Qs and the SPY. Something that we did mention in yesterday's video was a lot of the time the Qs will make a lower high while the SPY will go make the divergence. So I will be looking out for that, and I will mention it if I see it form this week. I will try to put that out on YouTube, if not Patreon during market hours. For right now, is the 30-minute at serious risk of like collapsing through the floor? Well, I would have to say no. You have great buyers below this level. So as far as daily expected moves go, 575.13 to the upside for Monday, 568.81 to the downside for Monday. So this would overall suggest to us that, yeah, continuation is still probable. We haven't crossed down. We haven't seen like great confirmations here. We just took back the 5. We could easily extend, then pull back into these type of areas. But overall, it's just we could extend all the way up to here. The next opportunity is going to be when the 30-minute pulls back. You notice where those good buyers are, pretty much right around that 567.50. So just below our daily expected move. So if we see a ripping move down to here and the 30-minute gets by that center line and then it just curls up, what do you think is most likely going to happen next? Well, we're going to test this high. We're going to go make a new one, and we might start playing with that weekly expected move. Okay, so that's as simple as we can make it for now. But squeezing could just keep going. It's more like when it pulls back, and that might be your opportunity for continuation if you weren't already in the move. So as it stands, it looks like, if you aren't in the move already and you're, taking profit with that great move on Friday and then holding some runners, well, then you might be waiting for the 30-minute pullback to go into the good buyers to get by that center line to curl up into positive territory. But there's no guarantee that happens on Monday. It does look like we could see another upward move first before that's able to take place. Heavily being aware that the Qs will be very affected by NVIDIA earnings on Thursday morning. That is when you will get the reaction. So be aware of Thursday morning, be aware of the signals on Wednesday at the close. I will once again put volatility at the beginning of the video. We did see the daily signal confirm. We saw the daily signal unconfirm. And we were very aware of this, not only because we were saying, oh, if you look at the SPY, it's by the weekly move and it has a higher low. But also, we saw that volatility made somewhat of a lower high at the same time. And that is where we go, okay, the 2-hour can cross down. If the 2-hour crosses down, are we going to see more downside in the SPY? Probably not. And the SPY has reversal signals at the same time. So this overall told us that the 2-hour can collapse here. Now, it collapsed further than you would expect. You would expect that to be a regular move down to the 5, maybe down to 1504, but it collapsed. We squeezed, which caused the daily to turn down here. This means that squeezing is heavily on the table. And this means that technically, if rate cuts is the reason, we could squeeze into the rate cut, which is very interesting, and we'll have to pay attention to things very, very closely. That being said, though, the 2-hour has crossed down. So the only availability for VIX to pop off here is if it curls up in the next few trading sessions, if it curls up in the next like 3 to 4 days. And you have to get this 2-hour to remain close enough to this center line, right? It has to remain in this area. So if it, sees a little pop and then drops all the way down by Thursday down to these levels, you have no reversal signal. So you really need this to, say, create a 30-minute divergence in the next few sessions. It can turn up, right? We can kind of move sideways, see a little bump up, move sideways, see a bigger bump, and then curl down to get towards like Wednesday or Thursday, maybe towards NVIDIA earnings. This is just an idea. I don't think this will happen, but we'll have to see. We have to see how this shapes up. If it remains in this area like this and creates these little bumps, and you end up seeing something simple like a higher lower divergence, then you would say, okay, the 2-hour is still close to that center line. maybe that thing's going to go positive again. And all of this is an end of month trap. So these are the type of things that you have to be aware of for volatility. Right now, it is heavily leaning towards squeezing. What I'm suggesting here is paying attention to if VIX isn't squeezing down, if SPY isn't squeezing high enough, but instead creating reversal signals during a time where you should be squeezing. That's what I'm going to mention on this channel. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. And I hope that that is in some way helpful to you. All right, and in yesterday's video, we were talking about the 2-hour chart for Apple down by this center line. This is very good. Now, it has given up the 5-day, which is perfectly fine. Like, this is a great time to go into where, as far as price action goes, some great buyers, right? We're in those great buyers. So we were paying attention to this, just mentioning it yesterday, saying, hey, this is one we could pay attention to. There's no divergence really here. There's just that little 30-minute one for the 2-hour pullback. It got a little bit uncontrolled, but relatively controlled overall. Nothing crazy. So what are we looking for? Well, potential for the next 2-hour swing to go test this high and go make a new one. This is where weekly expected moves can really, really help you, by the way. If you see a confirmation, you're going, hey, where could that go by the end of the week? Hey, you look for that weekly expected move. Now, it's not going to get there every time, but they do gravitate to those levels. You still have work to do. It's not a magical line that you always get to. You have work to do. So if you want to learn that stuff or just get those levels over on Patreon, you can learn in the link in the description. We literally only have 10 days left for that course sale. $100 for the full technical analysis course right now. That is 90% off if you want to get it. Patreon's down there if you want the weekly moves. We see here, so what can we do now? Let's go into it. 30-minute, what is going on here? Okay, well, the 30-minute was able to gather itself. It's able to go into a critical area, but these are some major sellers. This means that we could turn down from this level and create a divergence or a higher low. This is why I mentioned this on Saturday. This is why I'm talking about it today. If Apple is able to curl down and you see that go into this gap and it curls up, what would that be? That would be a higher low that's closer to the center line. That is what you see before this 2-hour turns up and before you try to test this high and go make a new one or get to a weekly expected move. What is the other opportunity here? Hey, if this thing sees a sell-off and goes down to this little 200 on the 30-minute, and then you see that curl up and you create a double bottom or like a divergence down here, where's that MACD going to be? Closer to the center line, which means also you would see a signal that the 2-hour is about to curl up and you could see a nice move to potentially the weekly upward move. Okay, these are some easy things to pay attention to. These are not things that are 100%. It is a trade. There is risks in every single trade, but they are high percentage plays that usually end up going to that upside move right before the 2-hour curls up in what? Positive territory, and we see that right by the center line. So I wanted to make sure to bring this to your attention, and here's what I like to say about this. So if I'm going to the store and I'm looking for apples and I expect apples to be there, and then I go to the store and there are no apples. Am I able to buy apples? No. So if I go to Apple and I say, okay, I'm going to expect some kind of reversal signal to be here. And if it is there, then I have a trade. If that reversal signal never pops up, do you have a trade opportunity? No. The things that you need your reasons for a trade. We talk about this thoroughly in the course. Stop sitting there and going, oh, well, this happened like this, so it has to go up. No, if Apple wipes through the floor or Apple starts to squeeze here, you're going to have to make a new plan. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Make sure your reasons are there. Make sure your reasons are confirming, and make sure all of those are in line with a plan for if it goes wrong, because there is risk in every single trade. If there are no reversal signals, then how will it reverse? That's kind of how we want to look at it from now on. Okay, so for Tesla, now Tesla was very interesting because you already saw that burst higher. We saw that little higher low just like on the Q or on the SPY and the Qs. Nice little higher low rejection, so a little bit difficult, but it was able to curl up here. Where are the good buyers for Tesla? Tesla, there are some great buyers right in here, man. There are some great buyers at that 328 level to 330, I would say. Great buyers in there. If the 30-minute is able to curl down and get into those buyers, that would be an area where I would look for the next move higher. This would give you that left, that head, and that right shoulder. This is how the 2-hour really gets going without confirming back down. If the 2-hour instead flops and curls back down, that would probably take place around 322. That would be way too much selling. So what needs to most likely happen here for Tesla is it could get a 30-minute pullback, at least if the opportunity is going to be there. Remember the apples. If the opportunity is going to be there, then the 30-minute would pull back and the 30-minute would curl up. And that is how we would go to an upside weekly expected move by the end of the week for Tesla. So I just wanted to point that out. It looks like a head and shoulders on the 30-minute would be a great opportunity if it shapes up for you. The market has to prove that. Meta, I wanted to also discuss Meta. Meta for now, able to curl up on the 2-hour, slightly negative here, right? Slightly negative. There could be a ton of things that happen with Meta, especially if it starts out just going up. We'll see if that's able to curl up. But do we have signs for this to be able to just go up, up, up and away? You do and you don't. You have this somewhat of a double bottom that says, yes, the 2-hour can get a move, but since the 2-hour is negative in some fashion, you would want to see continued strength and then see a higher low to really suggest this is going to be a little bit less risky trade. Something we could tell from the 30-minute that would be nice is if the 30-minute was able to maybe see a little more upside, but then come back down in this move and confirm one more time. That would be closer to the center line, and I would be much happier with that. But I would more so be thinking that the 2-hour just climbs, and then if we're meant to head up, then the 2-hour should climb, and then we would get some kind of 2-hour pullback, and I think that would be simpler. So it says the 2 hours going, but the 2 hours not in necessarily a place where it would say, oh, this is obviously going to squeeze to the upside. It actually more so looks like we would need to pop up and get a higher low or get a higher low on the 30-minute before we head higher. Now, going on into the next one, Microsoft. And we do have weekly expected moves for all the stocks that we're talking about here and a lot more. These are just ones that I really was interested in. We see that Microsoft is extremely negative. So what is very likely to happen here for Microsoft to head up? It needs to make 2-hour reversal signals. That means that it needs to confidently take back the 5, then see some kind of 2-hour pullback that then curls to the upside. And this is where you more have a comfortability, a less risk of saying, oh, this is going to head up, right? If you're going to say this is heading up, that would be the less risky time. The other scenario here is it could pop up or drag out for a bit. This could drag out for a bit like this, then curl down again before it's able to make a 2-hour divergence. Because you are so far from that center line, you can get up towards it, curl down for maybe a short swing trade, right? This would be swing trading in the opposite direction. And then if you see a little divergence down here on your MACD and RSI, that is a good time to say, hey, could the daily be just pulling back? Could the daily be by that center line? Could the daily be done pulling back and now we're actually going to curl up into positive territory? Do you now see why we're talking about Microsoft? It is the daily chart is right next to that center line. And if it creates those reversal signals on the 2-hour, that's what really affects the daily. If any of this stuff is confusing you, take the full technical analysis course down there while it is only $100. This stuff is really cut and dry in the course. On YouTube, we do things kind of fast, but in the course, we go step by step, and you'll learn about divergences, weekly expected moves, and everything, and it will genuinely help you. You will be able to understand markets a little better, and then be able to execute trades better. All right, Microsoft could set a lot of that stuff up, and you have time to take it this weekend. Don't, it's going to go up in price soon. So just you have a week left to get it. I highly encourage, if you are struggling at this point, to take it. It will help you. Okay, Microsoft, though, if this daily is going to curl up, the 2-hour has to make reversal signals. We'll see. It could get all those reversal signals and then curl and then just reject, right? This thing could reject. It can do a lot of things. So management for the trade, a plan for if it goes wrong is going to be very important. As we see here from Google now starting to make triple divergence on the daily scale. As the 2-hour shapes up, though, are we seeing that divergence hold for the 2-hour? Yes. It is holding as of right now for the 2-hour chart all the way across. This means you have to be very aware if this dumps off. If this dumps off and the 2-hour crosses down, there is risk of a dump. But even if this crosses, a lot of the time we like to buy ourselves some time, and we know NVIDIA earnings is coming down the line. You're probably going to want me to talk about NVIDIA. I'm not talking about NVIDIA because it has earnings and they already have planned for exactly what it's going to do, and they'll manipulate it on the day of when you put in your option because they'll see that data. As of right now, I think that Google could shape something up here in the next few trading sessions. I think Google could curl down. Maybe it needs to start to the upside, right? We're not down yet, but eventually it could pull back into that 5-day, then start to curl to the upside. And if you look at the timing of this, if this makes a 30-minute divergence here, that would say the 2-hour is likely to cross down. If you would do that towards the end of the day on Wednesday, Google could be shaping up and saying, hey, I have major weakness on the 30-minute, I have major weakness on the 2-hour, and I have potential weakness here on the daily chart now with triple divergence. This says Google could go through something bad and maybe be retesting this 200 at some point, maybe towards, I would say it would take some time. Maybe October would be a better time, but we have to see if the market proves any of this. But these are things to be aware of. Google might set up what we call the golden setup in the course down in the description, the full technical analysis course. It might set that up. And we've mentioned some of those on this channel before, and people go, whoa, those play out a lot of the time. And so if Google shapes all these things up, a lot of people will know what I will be doing with Google at that point. As far as it stands, we have memers too, AMC and GME. I think these things need to confirm. I think they need to get going. I think they need to get going now, or else I think GME is at risk of another drop. So I think GME needs to get going in the next 2 weeks. It needs to see a solid move to 28, if not taking back $30 to really see some upside. That's all I have to say about it at this point. It has pretty good daily signals on GME and AMC. They're just not seeing it gear up and get any positivity. So that's going to be rough. All right, guys, so for this video, I mainly just wanted to make sure you got those weekly expected moves. I wanted you to be aware that NVIDIA earnings is coming on Wednesday, and how we could really shape up in this market as far as Monday goes is we could see continued squeezing, but we could also see some kind of pullback to come into this 5 before actually heading higher. But there is the availability to squeeze higher first, then start to pull back before heading to the upside again. And I would just heavily pay attention to what the market is telling us before Wednesday close, what the market is telling us before we see the actual reaction for NVIDIA earnings. Is it up at this level or is it down at this one? But right now it just looks like we have a 2-hour heading to the upside. And can that 2-hour create some kind of divergence point here that ends up sending this market down right when everyone thinks it's safe again? We will pay attention because it needs to squeeze to raise the floor at this point. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. I hope this was enough information that it becomes helpful to you, that the market can be a little bit more clear going into Monday, and you can go spend some time with family. So thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Peace out.